It's leaving.
Yeah, I guess so.
How shall we use our time today?
So, in thinking about the open relationship, and then with staff members, and then the need to not be friends with them, I've noticed something that is a little puzzling to myself, and I'd like to just kind of think through it and talk through it. A habit that I'm doing that I'm like, I don't like this about myself. So, our lay leader stepped down on Wednesday after a Tuesday night meeting in which she and Angela kind of went back and forth. Now, there's no love between them. It's not shocking that they would get into an argument. Angela never really sees how she did, what she did. Just same. So, but I'm not really here to talk about that per se. So, in interacting with me, Angela, I really have no hard feelings against Jill. I find her as annoying as I find Angela. You know what I mean? Like, I see the good in both of them. I see the bad in both of them. And Angela, I wasn't there on Wednesday for the staff meeting that got moved to Wednesday, so I didn't hear about it. And so Angela came to me on Thursday last week and was like, oh, I have some good news. Because, after the meeting, Angela and I had been texting about Jill and just kind of the exchange that happened. And I was finding myself, like, siding with Angela and not really sticking up for Jill per se. And then, Angela came to me and she was like, oh, did you hear that Jill stepped down? Isn't that great news? Blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really honestly don't feel either way about it. I actually kind of think it's sad news. That she felt so bullied that she couldn't stay in a position of leadership. I don't know why she stepped down, but I'm assuming that had a lot to do with it. But anyways, I, walked away from the conversation and realized, in order to gain what I'm assuming what I was trying to do was to gain social collateral with Angela, I was agreeing with her on stuff that, I actually don't think. I don't feel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think that it was so much that I, in the moment would have been thinking, you don't believe this, but it was, in the walking away and, thinking through the conversation, I was like, why did I just
What
do
did
that?
I just agree to?
Why did I agree with her that I was excited that Jill was gone? Why didn't I say, yeah, it's, I know for you that's a good thing, but I, kind of like Jill. What am I, what was I doing there? So that was just such an interesting thing to me. And I've noticed I've been doing it not just with Angela, but with, other people around the church. They'll come and say something that's a little bit gossipy. And instead of me sticking up and saying, yeah, I don't engage in that, or, I don't really feel comfortable talking about that, I, actually engage in it. And I just know that's, one, I know when I can step away and look at it, it's not something I want to be doing. Two, I know that it could get me in a really crappy, sticky situations with this church. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess I just want to talk about it a little bit, think about how I can catch myself when I'm engaging in that and what I can do to kind of step back from that and be like, I want to be friends with you, but I can't engage in this way.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to converse with you and hear your concerns about someone, and, just because I don't feel that way doesn't mean I'm judging you for the way you feel. And I think that's, at least with Angela, I think that's what it is. I think I want to engage with her in that way because it opens herself up to me, and I feel okay, not friends, but, working relationship. She doesn't have CPE or clergy peer groups or anything like that to vent her frustrations about lay people that I do. And so I want her to feel like she can come to me, but I often don't agree with the feelings she's having about our lay people. And so I just don't know how to engage her. Do I just not engage in that way? Certainly with church members I shouldn't be engaging in that, but it was kind of a sad realization. I was like, oh no, what am I doing?
Well, with the incidents with Angela, if you were to think about it or name it in one of the four Bowen processes conflict, distance, over under function triangling. What would you see that as?
Well, it definitely puts me in a triangle with
Mhm.
Jill, with their relationship.
Right.
Whose side am I on? Whose am I? Maybe under functioning in a way too, because I'm just going along with the crowd. I'm not really naming how I feel or claiming my truth or anything like that too. So, and then also maybe like all of them in some way, distancing, just in that, like, oh, well, maybe if I did say my truth, that could create conflict, and I'd just rather go along than not, and not create conflict. So probably a little bit of all those things just mixed in together.
Okay, well, I think that's fair. I think the initial thought is that it's a triangle, and a very unequal triangle, and particularly since Julie, is that the person's name?
Oh, that was the girl earlier, was Jill.
Jill. Jill is not, is an object, or a subject, and not really a partner
Player.
or a player in the triangle. So the idea that a triangle, if it is to be healthy, has to have equal sides. And obviously there's not equal sides there. I think your idea of maybe your own underfunctioning, yeah, I mean, it's, Angela's behavior seems to be sort of a pattern of Leesburg. It's part of the system culture, if you will. And one way to react when the system's culture seems to be so ingrained and acts out in a particular way is to sort of give up self in relation to that, just to go along.
I definitely feel like I'm doing that right now.
Okay. So the question is, and what I hear your question really being is how do I strengthen self so that I'm not under functioning in the presence of that dynamic, and that I can have better thought in the moment rather than
just
waiting
going
to walking
along.
away and saying, what did I just do? Yeah, I think that's a wonderful question, and I think again that's really good insight on your part. And it's not always easy to be, at least it's not always easy for me. Maybe easier for you, but it's not always easy for me to be aware of my functioning in the moment. And sometimes it takes the reflection of afterwards to be able to say, wow. But that's the beauty of reflection, is that we are better prepared for the next time the occurrence happens, and highly likely that it'll happen again. If not with Angela, then maybe with somebody else. So, so what would be some good language for you to use that would reflect a stronger sense of self, that would not be just giving in to the under functioning, going along, or the creation of triangles? What would...
I wonder if it would just benefit me at this point to just state what I'm hearing, just to echo that back. Yeah. Wow, so Jill Jill stepped down from lay leader, and then she can, you know, share, wow, it works well in your favor.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad for Jill.
Or even
But-
it sounds like you're happy with this
Yeah.
development.
Yeah, just kind of just reflecting back, because I think in my going along with it, I am trying to get that social collateral, and I think that that's important for
Sure.
mine and Angela's working relationship.
Right.
But I want to do it in a way that it honors who I am like that.
Mhm.
I don't want to buy into their like. Ugh, I just don't want to buy into it. Yeah. So I think, yeah, just reflecting what we've learned here, you know, just reflecting back, kind of fogging, you know, of sorts, like just reflecting back what I'm hearing. Wow, okay. And maybe if I feel brave enough, or and I think that's part of it, is maybe I don't feel brave enough to say what I'm
Mhm.
really thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But if I do, just say that, yeah. Oh, I feel sorry for Jill that she left. We might not have seen eye to eye all the time, but I
I hoped
appreciate
we
it.
had
Yeah,
a good,
Yeah, I thought-
good
yeah.
working relationship.
yeah.
or
I
something.
appreciated what she did for our
Mhm.
church, which I think is valuable, and a true statement for my relationship with Jill. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and again, you know, gosh, in a perfect world, we would have all of this learning
Mhm.
right at our fingertips, right when we need it,
Right.
and you know, it's not always there,
Mhm.
and I'm not always. I'm thinking and trying to pull out things, and sometimes I don't do it, and it just.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
just.
just recognize that this habit is like not only not a good habit to have, but like is one that could really come. I just seen Angela work, and I've seen how this church works, and I know that if I don't watch myself, it could easily, the narrative can be flipped. I could be taken advantage of in ways that
Mhm.
with words that did come out of my mouth, and so I don't want to put myself in that position. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, if you're able, just remember, I think the reflective listening piece to, you know, acknowledge that it may have been, you know, good news for her, but that you had valued some of the things that Jill had brought forward,
Mhm.
and you'll miss that. Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think being co-workers with her adds another layer of just like, how, with church members I don't feel bad not sharing my whole feelings, about a lay person, obviously, or staff member. But with her, I think I'm going to have to work on what does an open relationship with Angela as a staff person look like with me. I mean, Jill did irritate me. Like, do I share that with her? Does that give her more? Because my thing would be like, well, if I did share that with her, I just feel like it could be used against me later. That she would be able. So I don't know. I think that's just something I'm gonna have to work out, figure out how honest I want to be with Angela, just because I have seen her at work, and I don't know. I kind of have to. I have to keep vigilant, I think, just knowing myself and knowing how easily it is for me to trust people, and not to say that she's like this awful person, or I don't think that about her. I just think that she's a person that's been hurt many times by this church, and is really into the culture of this church, and just wouldn't even see using something like that as mean. Would just see that as like, this is the way things work at this church. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Well, there also just seems to be something about Angela that has a hold on you somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, it seems as if, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like, you know, there has been, at least at the beginning of the unit, and there might still be some tangible hangover of it, but it seems as if you have something more invested in that relationship with her than maybe any of the others.
Yeah. Because I would say so, because I feel like Angela is the one. So Jim and I don't think we have an open relationship.
Okay.
At all. I think.
But you don't seem to be terribly hung up about
that.
No.
And I think that because I don't have an open relationship with him, then I want that open relationship with Angela, because I'm not getting it from one person on the staff. And she doesn't have it with him either. So I think we both kind of are looking for that. But it hasn't worked out well for us. So, and I know that I have the opportunities to go elsewhere for that. I have that. So she doesn't. But yeah, it does irritate me a little. Sometimes I'll say to Daniel, like, I just wish Jim would be honest with me. Like, we're both clergy. I'm not here to sabotage him. Like, I just wish he would just tell me how he was really feeling. Like, that's irritating to me. Whereas Angela has always told me how she's really feeling, what she really thinks. And so, yeah. In some ways, I think our staff would be better served if Jim would do that as well. But he doesn't. He just is really, keeps his deck of cards really close to him. And I think, I think he has other outlets, and perhaps he's wiser than I've even been able to realize yet, to keep those cards close and not to share that with us, not to bias us. So, yeah, I think that's probably a little bit of what's happening is Angela wants to be open and to be able to talk and have that space, and we did have that once, and so, yeah, it's hard for me not to go back to that place with her. I mean, I really do feel a little bit like, I don't know. I guess I was burned before, and so I like wondering what's up with this. So for a while she just kind of let me be, and now she's coming back and like doing the thing where she tells me about what she really thinks about Jim, or she tells me what she really thinks about so and so, and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this is weird. Like, this feels like you're trying to recreate what was going on like before our fallout about this time last year, and it's just weird to me. And I don't want to go back to that place with her. I don't have a desire to do that because of what happened, and it doesn't seem like a healthy place to be with her. She doesn't seem like a person who is, and I feel bad saying this, but she doesn't seem like a person who is self-aware and healthy enough to be able to have a relationship with her in that way. So it just makes me nervous. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you coming to me and telling me all these things and acting like we're chummy when, we've got to we can do projects together. I'm happy to work with her, but like, we are not chummy in the way that we once were, and I don't want to be chummy with you again. That's not something that I.
So how does she interpret the relationship?
I have no clue.
It would be interesting to have conversation, at the right point, at the right time.
Yeah.
To be able to say, the way I think about it, what I expect our relationship to be is collegial, good working relationship. We can do things together, and that's kind of what I need. I'm just curious if what your thoughts are. What do you need in this kind of relationship? See what she says.
Yeah. wonder if she could be honest enough to say what she actually needed. I mean, if she couldn't be, that would be on her, but it just seems like, you know that phrase, like, hurt people.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like that is her. Whether she's aware of it or not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's an unfair judgment, but just in the way that she carries herself, and just the way people are just leaving. Like, people are leaving our church because they can't, because of her. Ugh, God, that must hurt really bad, too.
Yeah.
For her. It's unfair.
But you know, there's one thing to feel sorry for her.
But she kind of made.
Yeah, and the other thing is to allow another person to be able to speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. She might not. She
You
doesn't
know?
feel sorry for herself.
Right. Yeah.
She doesn't care.
Right. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she doesn't, or she's so hardened by whatever that goes on in her life that she's not willing to risk relationship because of fear of vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
hurt. You know, I don't want to diagnose her, and I don't
Yeah.
think anybody
Yeah, I don't want to either.
should try to do that. But you know, but you know, being, yeah, you know, I just wonder if anybody's ever asked her the questions.
Yeah.
You know, what is it that she needs in working here?
Yeah.
You know,
What do you want?
What do you want? What's your vision? What's your goal personally? What's your vision for the church? What do you need in the team? You know, maybe no one's ever asked her that.
Yeah. I think those are questions that she would be welcome. Like, I think she would, in the right setting, I could ask those questions and just listen.
And then, you know, following that up with, well, what do you imagine that the team or the church and others need from you?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she doesn't have a really good idea from that. Maybe that's the conversation worth having.
Mm-hmm.
You know, yeah, you know, we really need you to be more collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
Not only with the team, but with our lay leaders as well.
Yeah. And the other thing is, people say they're leaving because of her, but they can't. I haven't been able to, like, actually talk to somebody and ask, like, well, why? Like, what did she do, you know? And I mean, that's another question. I shouldn't just assume that, like, she's a bad person because they're leaving. You know what I mean? Like, they might give me something like, well, you know, she didn't do this and I expected her to do that, but I never told her that I needed that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Which, that's not fair to her. No, but anyways.
And part of me would also want to go back to those people who say they're leaving because of Angela and say, you know, is that true? Is it really true? Is it because of
One person, one
personality that you're willing to leave?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there more going on that
Mm-hmm.
that you haven't said, or
Mm-hmm.
Just curious about that, and doing that in a non-defensive
Mm-hmm.
kind of way, and you know, being more emotionally neutral at that point to be able to ask questions. Is that really true?
Mm-hmm.
You know, is it really because of her that you're leaving? I'm just curious. And
Mm-hmm.
wonder if there's more going on that you'd be willing to share with me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Such an interesting church.
Yeah, you know, church people are sometimes, you know, just really strange in that they will they'll fight and fuss and fume about another person in the church or in the congregation, and we'll say it's all their fault. It's all them. It's all, they're all innocent victims. But I always think there's responsibility to go around.
We were listening to our speaker last night, and he was presenting on suicide prevention, specifically for teens. And he was telling the parents, he was like, when your child says something like, I hate you, or you're the worst person in the world, or you just suck, instead of reacting to that phrase, instead take what they're saying and put it back on them. I hate myself. I'm the worst person ever. I suck. And he was like, that'll help you be more empathetic, and it might point you to what the root of the issue is. He was like, yes, sometimes it will be that we did something wrong and we need to, confess that to our teens and ask for forgiveness. But he was like, sometimes, especially with teens, what they're saying is really more about themselves as opposed to you. And I think that's kind of true of church work too, that like sometimes the issue is never the issue at hand. It's really never the issue at hand. Especially with this church, there's just layers upon layers upon layers upon layers of stuff that maybe they don't see, but I've been going around asking curious questions and just trying to get some more information, so it's been helpful. They definitely have been a burned church. Like, they haven't had, before Jim came, it was pretty bad leadership, so.
I'm a bit curious as to how the reverse town halls all went.
Yeah, it went interestingly. I didn't get to go because I was on vacation, but I kind of just asked people about it afterwards, and one of the women that was there, it was like a young mom, she called me afterwards just to talk about it. And so they did a bunch of like lists and stuff, and one of the lists was how long you had been at LUMC. And so like for the 0 to 5 years, there was like one person there. For like, or like 2 people there, and 5 to 10, nobody was there. Or maybe 1 again. But anyways, it was like really backloaded with people that had been there like 25 plus years, 50 plus years. So it was like all of our older people that were there at this meeting. And so they go around the meeting and they ask every individual person, what do you love about your church? And oh, we have the best worship, blah, blah, all this stuff. And then the woman that called me said that the woman that was moderating kept saying, like, people would say, like, well, we're a really successful church, we have wonderful programs. She'd be like, oh, I hear that the programs you're involved in are really good, but, your statistics aren't actually showing that, so can you speak to that at all? And we'll just get so irritated and angry with her, like, for her to even say that this church wasn't great or fantastic or, the best church in Leesburg. So it seems like our older population, one, they really feel like NLI is coming in to just, like, attack them. Which the whole point of that, and they say it, like, over and over, the whole point of that night is for us to hear your strengths so that we can work from your area of strength as opposed to working from an area of weakness. Weaknesses we can get to later, down the road. But right now, we have to, we gotta work from where you're good to be able to even touch where you're bad. Let's just work from where you're good. But they just have this, their touch on what the church used to be and not what the church is today. What it was like 20 years ago when they first joined and stuff. Oh, we have a great children's program, our youth program's amazing. Which is true in some ways, but isn't, like, totally the case. So it was interesting. They said some things about millennials, with millennials in the room, so that was fun. but it sounds like the consulting team has a lot of work ahead of them. That buy-in is going to be a really hard thing. You have to buy into the 5 things. What do they call them? I don't know, but it's like 5 action items that we need to, or like 5 little points that we need to change or whatever, and you have to buy into all of them, or the program ends. And so it'll be interesting to see if our church buys in. I think if our church doesn't buy in, but they're kind of signing their own death certificate in a way. I mean, God works in mysterious ways, so maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't know. It'll be.
Do you feel like this process has increased the congregation's anxiety?
Oh my gosh, it just ratcheted it up. Especially now that it's beginning, like with them, now that they're involved in it, it's just. I never have seen anxiety in a system like this since maybe one blip of it in my sorority in college. Okay, like this, it's just. I mean, I feel like Stanky should be called Stanky. He needs to come in.
Well, I wonder. Bowen has a theory that that suggests that when a system experiences an event or a turmoil that raises its anxieties, that it has ripple effects throughout the system.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if you can, I don't know this for sure, but I wonder if there's a way to think of Jill's stepping down from her position and kind of focusing blame on Angela, and Angela kind of focusing blame on her. I mean, how is that a ripple maybe of the greater anxiety in the congregation?
I kind of think of it as the pruning, which maybe is a very harsh way to put it, but I feel like we're losing members. Like, I mean, we lost like 3 families in the past few months, which didn't really have anything to do with NLI, but more with the shift in responsibilities, and we're talking a lot about why people are leaving, which I think is a good thing. But I think that also kind of adds to the anxiety. But in a way, I kind of feel like it's the pruning. It's kind of saying like, okay, who can handle the heat in some way, to be able to walk with us through these changes, because it's not going to get, the anxiety is going to continue with us. It's not going to, there's not going to be a time in the next 6 months where it dissipates and disappears. So if you